Hello, this is Stephen Nojiri, and this is another Fukushima Ryu Ninjutsu video. In this video, we're going to return back to the 10 Treasures Norito, or the 10 Treasures chant. These are the 10 treasures of the Mononobe Ryu Shinto tradition, or the 10 treasures of Nigi Hayahi. If you haven't watched the previous videos, you should find the videos of the 10 treasures and watch it. It's a good foundation for this one, but we will cover some ground again. Now, this 10 treasures chant is used in Fukushima Ryu Ninjutsu, and if you look at your screen in the red, there are two main variations or two main ways it's used in Fukushima Ryu. There's the normal invocation, which is pretty standard, in which you do the basic chant, and with the chant you can also do mudra and visualizations. Then there is a version linked to seeing ghost, in which you do the invocation 3 times, run through the sequence of the mudra sequence, etc., etc. Then you put your hands into the diamond, or aka the water chestnut shape, and you look through your hands to see if that thing is really a ghost or if it's some kind of yokai, etc., etc. It's to basically determine if something is normal or if it's some kind of spirit. It's a way to see through the illusion. If it is a ghost or a spirit and it's messing with your mind, it's a way to sort of pierce through that, the power being used against you. Now in the yellow box, if you haven't seen the previous video, here is your summary. Quickly, this chant goes back to Nigi Hayahi. He's a deity of heaven as opposed to a deity of the earth. Remember, there are deities of heaven and then there are deities of earth. He's one of the deities of heaven, and he crashed his ship on earth, and his 10 divine treasures become the foundation of a tradition of ritual magic for Mononobe Ryu Shinto. Basically, Nigi Hayahi and his son are the source of, are the founders essentially of the house of Mononobe, and these 10 treasures are the foundation of the Mononobe Ryu ritual practices, aka Mononobe Ryu Shinto. So this Mononobe Ryu Shinto, which is Nigi Hayahi's tradition, this also intermingles with Okuninushi's Izumo traditions very early on. So the 10 treasures tradition finds a very solid foundation in the Chugoku region, which is Izumo, Hiroshima, Yamaguchi, etc., etc., etc. So they are two different traditions, but they intermingle a lot. And before we go on, let me just remind everybody that in Sacred Conspiracy, 10 years ago, in Sacred Conspiracy, I chose to gloss over this topic. I kind of regret doing that. I feel like it was a mistake. So now, 10 years later, 2025, when I've decided to get more real about showing this material, take the gloves off a bit, I'm hoping that showing the material now can kind of make up for having decided not to show it back in Sacred Conspiracy. And so when the new Fukushima Ryu commentary comes out and I take Sacred Conspiracy off the market and replace it with the new commentary, this is the kind of stuff that will be in the new commentary. All right, so moving forward, the chant is pretty straightforward. You guys, some of you may know this already, and if you don't, just follow along. But it's Hito futa miyo itsu muyu nana ya koko no tare momochiyotsu, right? But as we'll get into later, you're not supposed to just kind of say it like that, but that's essentially it. And each number invokes or summons a particular treasure from the 10 treasures. So the core chant is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, with each number corresponding to a particular treasure. That's the core chant, 1 through 10. So the version you see on your screen, right, that's from the Fukushima Ryu. Alright, so the 1 through 10 is the base chant, and then the Momochiyotsu that's at the end is added. And what you'll see is you have the core chant, but then many different traditions will add something after 10, such as Momochiyotsu. And that addendum at the end is, so you invoke the 10 treasures and then you add the activity that you want to do. So in this case, you're invoking the 10, and then Momochiyotsu gets directed toward piercing through the illusions of ghost, being able to see that it is a ghost, being able to see that it's some kind of yokai. Another example is that in the original story, or the original documentation of this text going back. So, in other words, the first time we see this chant appearing in the written record, it was used to revive Emperor Jimmu. So Emperor Jimmu essentially is dead, dying and or dead, depending on which version of the story. But he needs to be resuscitated. And so in this time, it was 1 through 10, and then after 10, the words Hurube Yuro Yuro Hurube is added, and the Hurube Yuro Yuro Hurube is the part that brings the emperor back to life, resuscitates him. So 1 through 10 is invoked, and then Hurube Yuro Yuro Hurube is the action. So do you understand what so there's 1 through 10, and then there's the action added to it. You have the core spell, then you have the action added after the 10. So go ahead and look at your screen, and these are my hand drawings that I used in my latest book. So in Samurai Traditions of the Tadagenji, if you happen to have a copy, you'll recognize these are my drawings from that book. But you'll see them on your screen, and what these are is you'll see Hito 1, Futa 2, Mi 3, Yo 4, Itsu 5. You'll see they're each marked. So these are the diagrams. In so many ways, this is what you can visualize when you hit the different numbers. So Hito, there's your visualization. Futa, visual. Mi, Yo, Itsu, Muyu. You see? In the order. 1, 2, and 3 is one set. 4, 5, 6, 7 is another set. And then 8, 9, 10 is another set. You'll see in the next chart we're going to show the pacing. I'll give you examples of different ways of chanting or pacings for it, but just know now 1, 2, 3 is a set, 4, 5, 6, 7 is a set, 8, 9, 10 is a set. So you'll see one version of the pacing, and then you'll see another version of the pacing where the set breakdown is the difference in the pacing. But this is the visuals. Okay, so now we're going to examine the pacing. But before we do that, let me remind you that the tradition now is that when you chant a number, you visualize the treasure and you do a hand mudra. Now, the mudra and the visualizations were added over time. The original version of the spell is to have the 10 treasures physically present and to activate them. But with them not being physically present, basically you visualize them and you do hand mudras. So is absolutely influence from Buddhism, 100% influence from Buddhism, but it is what it is. So originally they're not visualizations and mudras, but over time visualizations and mudras are added to the chanting to create the 10 treasures ritual that we now know that's been around for hundreds of years. So in other words, when the Fukushima Ryu shinobi are operating in the late 1500s, 1600s, etc., this is how they would be comprehending it, visualizations, mudras, chants, etc., etc. So anyway, having said that, let's now move forward into the pacing. So pacing means how you actually say the melody, I suppose, how you say it. Now, of course, you can always just speak the numbers, just speak them. That's fine. In the present day, many different people that practice this just say the numbers, right? That's fine. But there are some melodies that you can find that have been around for a while, and if you go to different regions, you'll find these melodies. Specifically in the sort of Chugoku region, there's melodies that are, you can find. And so I'll give you 2 different versions of that melody. So if you see on your screen, you can see where it says Hito Futa Mi and then ... yo, which is 1, 2, 3 ... or ... 4. That ... is where you hold the syllable. So Hito Futa Mi yo, like that. Itsu muyu nana yakoko no tari, like that. That's one of the pacings. An alternate pacing is to move 4 down into the second line because 1, 2, 3 is a set, 4, 5, 6, 7 is a set, and then 8, 9, and 10 is a set. So if you want to chant them more in their correct sets, you just shift it a bit, and it would sound more like this. Hito futami yoitsumo yunana yakoko no tari. Like that. And of course, there are other variations of that. That is not the only way that it's chanted, so I'm not going to tell you it has to be chanted this way. But these are two versions that you can be aware of. Like I said, alternatively, you can just pronounce the numbers. You don't have to sing them or anything. You can just say them and do the visualization of mudras. Now, but remember, as I said, so when you do the first 10, you then tack something on to the end, which gives the focus of the chant. So you're sort of invoking the 10 treasures, and then you're directing them towards something, like do this activity. So in the Fukushima Ryu scroll, it is used to sort of dispel the illusions of a ghost in order to see if it really is a ghost, or see, like if it's to see if there's a ghost there, and to see if that thing is natural or supernatural. It's a way to sort of like break through its disguise. So when you're doing that, you would do the first 10, and then according to the scroll, you put your hands together, you say Momochi Yorotsu, and you open your hands to make a water chestnut shape, and then you look through the water chestnut shape. In one variation, you say Momochi Yorotsu, then open your hands, or you can say Momochi and then open your hands, and as you open your hands, you say Yorotsu. It's a very minor difference. It doesn't really matter. But the Momochi Yorotsu with the opening, so prayers to hands together, Momochi Yorotsu, open them, that is the specific ending that shows if it's a ghost or not. So invoke with the 10, and then do the Momochi Yorotsu in order to see if it's a ghost. Does that make sense? So viewer beware though. Let me stop here for a minute and say that first off, beware that in Japan, many fringe occult groups, the 10 treasures are very popular. It's just the way it is. But aside from fringe occult groups, there are non-fringe occult people, like real shrines, that actually practice this. Now, having said that, I have seen a trend among some normative groups, non-fringe occult groups, like real shrines, that are doing the chants. They're doing the treasures out of order. They're still counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but the mudras and the visualizations for treasure 5 are given to 7, and then 7 is given to 5, but they still say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I don't know. It looks to me like it's an error, because all of the sequence that I know, and the documentation that I have, and the instructions that I have, and the amulets and spells and stuff related to the 10 treasures I have, is very clear about the order of invocation. So I don't know why they're doing stuff in different orders. It's and when you investigate, you oftentimes are told, oh, this is because this is how it's done. But I can't accept that, because I know, like, guys, come on, I know how it's done. Not only do I know it's done, but I have the documentation. Like, for example, you see the arrows on the screen. Now, I have extensive historical documentation showing the original order, how the spell is done. And I also have a lot of extra material, such as I actually have 10 instructions for a 10 treasures amulet used in the early 1600s, and it confirms, it jives with the order that's presented in all the other texts. So it's very clear, the order. So at some point, traditions have varied enough that even the orders are being switched up by some people. So just be aware of that. There are some shrines that do this 10 treasures chant in an order that I would say is out of order, but I don't know why they do it, but the order is different. Interestingly enough, though, because the fringe occult groups in Japan watch these shrines to see what they're doing, they oftentimes then do their stuff out of order as well, or their sequences in this odd numbering as well. So at this point, some of you may be saying, okay, well, you've talked about the visualizations, and you've talked about the chant pacing, and you've talked about how you do the 10 and then add an ending, but you've also talked about the mudras, but you haven't shown the mudras. So are you going to show the mudras now? And the answer is no, not yet. Anyway, maybe in the future I'll go over one or two of them. But, and you know, even if I don't show you the mudras, I'll admit that there are many places and people that you can go to who will show you the mudras. You can see the mudras. They openly give this stuff out, and they seem to have no caution about giving it out to random people online, strangers that show up, whatever. Okay, so yes, there's places you can go to get these mudras, but I caution you. First off, remember I just told you there's a lot of people that are doing the sequence out of order. I feel it's incorrect. Now again, I'm not going to say it's incorrect really. I'm just going to say to me it's greatly out of order, and I don't know why they're doing it that way. So the odds are you will run across somebody. If you run across somebody that just freely gives you everything, it's probably that funny sequence, not the original sequence, or what I would call the correct sequence. Second of all, why are they putting everything, especially if you talk to this person online or find some post online, why are they putting everything online? So I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I absolutely hold back data and I hold it back purposefully, because I don't want to be the guy that puts every single aspect of the thing online for any random stranger to get a hold of. I believe there's a moral imperative for me to hold some things back. There is a difference between exposing you and inspiring you toward deeper historical truths, and just flat out blabbing things that I should be cautiously withholding. So my goal is to expose you to deeper historical truths of samurai culture and tradition, and it is to inspire you to research it and to pursue it yourself, to awaken a curiosity and a hunger in you, so to speak, to pursue it further, but not giving you every single little detail. So again, the moral imperative that I inspire you, but I don't spoil you. Otherwise, we end up with the whole Kujikiri fiasco. As many of you know, and if you don't know now, you'll know, I have a bone to pick with Kujikiri. Real Kujikiri, real historical Kujikiri exists and is fine. But I detest the culture and the whole dynamic of Kujikiri as it is being practiced by people in the modern times. It is like, I actually genuinely respect the 10 treasures chant ritual. I don't want to see it become a joke. I don't want it to be another Kujikiri fiasco. So that is one reason why I will introduce you guys to this, but I will not expose every single aspect of it. Okay, so with that, I will conclude the video and we will do a summary. So things to remember. Alright, there is a base norito, or base chant of 1 through 10. And each number of the 1 through 10 is an invocation of a particular treasure. And each treasure is the embodiment of a particular function or a particular power. If you get deeper into the Mononobe Ryu tradition with the 10 treasures, each treasure has a bunch of teachings related to each treasure. So the idea is you're invoking each one of them, but there's also all the lessons associated with each one, etc., etc., etc. So invoking the treasures with the chant of 1 through 10, doing the visualizations, doing the mudras, etc., etc. Once you do 1 through 10, you then add an ending based on the intended purpose. So for example, in the original version, The ending was Hurube Yoru Yoru Hurube to bring Emperor Jimmu back to life. In Fukushima Ryu, we add Momochi Yorotsu with the extra mudra when trying to see if a thing or a person is a real person or thing, if it's normal, or if it's actually some kind of ghost or spirit or yokai, etc., etc., etc. Also remember, there are variations of the spell. It can be done in different ways, and various shrines and various regions have their own unique take on it. So you will find many variations of this. Lastly, my own personal warning. This is worldly magic, so don't become too concerned with it, nor should you allow yourself to become obsessed with it. Now, I say this not only as a Buddhist, but I also say this just in general. This is worldly magic. You can use it if it's useful, but if it is not useful, or it causes you to start thinking and behaving weirdly, then stop. Don't even mess with it, okay? Just the same way that people get unhealthy and obsessive and start acting weird when they mess around with Kuji or Kuji Kiri, or they start acting weird if they start thinking about ghosts too much or occult things too much, I caution anyone watching this video, do not get overly concerned with this chant. Do not get overly concerned with the mudra sequences. Do not get egotistical. Do not think that you're the shit because you've learned a little bit about this chant. Let all of that go. Relax your mind and don't attach to any of this. Use the Fukushima Ryu approach to this. This is a worldly spell that if it's useful, use it. If it's problematic or not, if it's not working or it's causing you to think and feel in weird ways, then just put it down. All right. Please leave any questions or comments in the comment section, and that's it.